Yo, what is up guys? It's the Goblin and welcome to another Fortnite video. In today's video, I'm going to give you guys some of the best tips on how to get more wins and how to get easy, effective wins in Fortnite Battle Royale. Now, of course, everyone likes different things in this game. Some people want to get wins, they don't care how many kills. Some people want to get high kill wins. And I'm going to be basically giving you guys tips all over the board, early, mid game, and late game, and covering on how to just increase that win percentage and make sure you are converting on those gameplays. That's what today's video is going to be about. Today's gameplay is, a pretty nice win here that I got a little while ago and where I'm able to convert on a win. So if you guys could drop a like on this video, the support on my channel, on this channel, has been absolutely insane. Just everyone liking the video, subscribing. We're closing on 30,000 subscribers and I'm just overwhelmed and blessed to be seeing these numbers, just the support from all of you guys. So let's go for 305 likes on this video. If you guys all could smack that like button, it does mean the world to me. As a YouTuber, as a content creator, when you see people enjoying your videos, subscribing, commenting, liking, something that just takes a second for the viewers to do can mean the world to a creator and really makes me want to keep pumping out these Fortnite tips daily. And I know a lot of people ask me, how do you get more wins? How do you increase that win percentage? Because when it comes down to stats of how good a Fortnite player is, there's a few different things that you could determine how good a Fortnite player is. Win percentage and how many wins they have. I would say their average kills per match is also a factor there, and of course their top couple of games, so their wins with the most amount of kills. I'd say those are some of the main areas you could determine how good of a player you are, and win percentage and getting wins is probably one of the best feelings, and probably the reason why this game is so addicting to so many people is that there's no better feeling of having that number one, the victory royale pop up. So let's talk about it. So we're going to start from the earliest of the early game. So first key for getting more wins is your landing. Now, of course, there's two different ways to play. You can either play for a high kill win. In that situation, you're going to want to land at either Pleasant Park, Retail Row, Salty Springs, or Tilted Towers. Pretty much those are the areas you're going to want to go. There's some other areas that are good for high kill wins, but those are the main ones. And the number one out of all those would probably be Tilted Towers. But if you want to simply increase your win percentage and win more games, you're going to want to land in an area that is a little less populated. Now, my favorite strategy for this is basically what you want to do is with the bus and the route that the bus comes in, you want to look for the place that is will have some good loot and would usually be fairly populated, but that's a stretch and that's really far away from the bus. For example, a good one I like to use for this with this strategy is Greasy Grove. Sometimes it can be a stretch to Pleasant Park, and you want to basically jump out of the bus, look up, and just go along for the ride, because most players are too lazy and they will end up just dropping to whatever's near the bus or whatever's right at the start. People are impatient and lazy. So if you're able to be patient with it, to take your time and to stretch it, you can get to a place like Greasy Grove and have all the loot to yourself. I've done it multiple times, and that is a good way to get looted up and get ready for the mid game if you want those easy wins. However, by doing that, you won't get as many kills nearly as if you land at Tilted. So it's a sacrifice there between kills versus going for a higher placing and a higher win. But the main thing with no matter where you land, survive early game. If you survive early game, most of the players get destroyed in the early game. If you can survive the early game, you will give yourself a chance. There's games where, especially in solos and duos and squads, it takes a little bit longer for teams to start dropping out. But in solos, each match starts with 100 people, or usually around 100. Sometimes they won't fill up all the way. And it'll get down to about the first 50 people will get eliminated within usually like the first 3 to 5 minutes. So if you can just survive that time, get yourself a gun, kill a couple people, you're putting yourself in a pool to move on to that mid-game section. And then if you can survive the mid-game section and go to the top 15, I'd say around there, that would make you survive to the late-game section. So that's definitely what you can do in terms of the landing and the early game. Stretching it far away from the bus is how you're going to be able to get more loot, run into less people, and get those easy wins. Next thing I would say is once you do that early game, you want to get yourself into sort of a routine. Now, this happens when you're playing the game a lot more. For example, for different areas and different ways that the storm comes in. The storm does come in different ways, but it's sort of predictable because there's only a certain amount of different combinations that it can come in. So one routine I like to run, which you'll see me do in this gameplay, I go to Tilted Towers. I like to get games where I get, usually in a win, I want to get at least 10 kills. Between 10 to 20 kills is a pretty good win, in my opinion. So I will land at Tilted Towers, and then I have my routine. I know my rotations. I usually run up on this hill, get a vantage point over people, catch the people rotating depending on the safe zone, and that's my routine. I'm able to run that and to catch people out of positions, and that's basically the routine that I like to run. I have different ones. If I land at Salty Springs, I'll rotate over to the factories. If I land at Retail, I'll rotate to the factories. If I land at Pleasant Park, I'll rotate to Tilted Towers. Now, of course, sometimes your rotations will have to change based on where the safe zone comes in. But once you get into those routines and basically run those, I guess you would call them rush routes or whatever, you're able to get looted up and to stay alive and put yourself in that position to move on to the next aspect of the game and to get an easy win off that. Now, the next tip I would give here, and this is for more of a beginner player, I guess you would say, is that in this game, I see a lot of people that will hide to the late game and then just end up getting killed. This is not a game where you can hide, really, because the key to this game is whoever has more materials, more loot, better guns is going to win in an elongated fight or a longer fight, which happen a lot late game. The fights are very, very long, especially when people have big towers built up and stuff like that. So you have to make sure you're getting looted up. Don't just hide somewhere. And in order to get loot, of course, running through buildings and stuff can get you some good loot, and especially with that strategy I gave you guys earlier in the video for early game. But in that mid game section, you're going to have to get a good amount of kills, at least a couple kills, to pick yourself up some loot. And the best way to do that, the easiest way to do that, is you don't want to put yourself out there too much, because then you're going to die and you won't be able to get the easy win. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to catch players out of position. So what I recommend doing is to rotate early, and especially this is key more mid game and late game. Rotate early to the safe zone, and you can sort of play along that edge and maybe build yourself a box, something like that. Wait for people to rush at you are coming, especially the first safe zone, the second safe zone. There's a lot of latecomers to those ones. You can pick people off doing that, take their loot, and then be super looted up, because when it gets down to that top 10 situation, if you don't have at least, I'd say 500 of material, I prefer, you know, wood or brick is probably the best two materials. You probably want to have like 500 each of those materials, and you want to have yourself a good ammo, probably around 300 AR ammo, and if you can have a launcher and some consumables, you're definitely going to be looted up and ready to go. And that only happens by proper loot early game, using that strategy I gave you guys. Mid game, rotating early, getting a routine, getting more kills, and setting yourself up for that late game. Now, the late game is the biggest key. Once you're late game, you've already invested so much time into that game. You've probably already been playing for 15 minutes or so, and you want to make sure to get those conversions. And what a conversion is basically Fortnite tracks, depending on the game mode, they'll track your top 25 finishes, your top 10s, and then your number 1 finishes. Now, your conversion rate would be the rate that you get top 10 compared to the rate that you win. And for a good player knows how to convert that and how to make sure that they are winning. So what you can do here is in late game, I especially recommend playing it slow late game, especially if you don't have that many wins already. Playing it slow late game, building yourself a base, rotating early, and being set up. A lot of times people who are late game get nervous and they wait until the storm's moving in and they try to move in with the storm, which is a strategy that I used to do, and I ended up dying a lot because you'll be moving in with the storm and you'll see people in these huge bases. So what I like to do, and how to make sure you convert on those wins, build yourself a base about 4 stories high or something like that, and wait. You'll see people, even if you don't see them right away, you'll see people when the storm's moving in, when the time's ticking down, when the storm's moving in 10, 20 seconds, people are going to be running in, and if you have yourself some good loot, a scar, maybe a blue AR, maybe an RPG or something, it's free kills to pick those guys off and get some free kills, lower the player count, and get closer to that win. That's what I would recommend. Late game is all about that base play. It's all about destroying your enemy's bases. Another tip for late game is don't peek for too long, because you might see someone, you might have them on the ropes, be winning that gunfight like I talked about in my video yesterday, which is how to win gunfights. You guys should all check that out. But there might be a sniper behind you that you didn't know about, especially in solo, ready to take your head off. So make sure you don't peek for too long. Another tip for late game you can do, which is more advanced, is maybe you can edit a little head glitch or a little hole in your walls and shoot through there if you want to be specifically safe. But that's definitely late game, is all about that base play, rotating early. If you have a jump pad, jump pads are major key to save for late game, to use them as a rotation. Then you can just jump pad into the next safe zone, build up, and be able to get ahead of your enemies and win like that. Most of these tips apply for solos, for squads, and for duos. Of course, the main difference between those game modes is that when you run into people, you're going to be running into more people and knockdowns compared to complete kills. In solo, if you get killed, it's over. That's the game. You're back to the menu. However, in squads, you're able to get, if you're knocked down, your teammates can help save you, and same with duos. And what I recommend, the main difference in those game modes is early game, you really have to coordinate your landings. Even if you're all going to Tilted Towers, you got to say a specific area. Maybe you're going to the basketball courts, maybe you're going to the big towers or the brown apartment building, something like that. You need to coordinate that landing, because especially early game and even mid game, even late game, but mostly that early game, you're going to be able to save your teammates sometimes. If you are in a close proximity to your teammates, if one of you gets knocked down, your teammate, you have to be ready to respond to your teammates instantly, come over there and save them, because the key to winning a squad game, and pretty much the only key to winning squad games, is having, out of your 4 members, if you have like 3 members up in the last 10, you have a great chance at winning, because a lot of those other teams will just have 1 to 2 members, and you can strictly beat them based off numbers. Hope you guys did enjoy today's tips. A lot of different tips on how to win more games, get easy wins in this game. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and that's about it, guys. Sub for a cookie and don't looky, and I'm out. Peace.